Okay, just your general comments, Judge.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a concerning situation. I just visited with the incident commanders and first responders on the scene, and of course, everybody. Should we wait or? Okay. Of course. So I just visited with the first responders and the firefighters, folks who've been there all day. Everyone's working very hard. The folks who are doing the air monitoring, and it is, we have fires and flaring and explosions with some sort of frequency, just given where we live. This one I'm especially concerned by. Got into town straight to look at it. The threats, one, obviously the air monitoring, and so it's about how many small particles are in the air that folks can inhale and can cause damage to their body. Right now we're monitoring the perimeter. I've asked that our public health department make that perimeter tighter and narrower, and it's about how many particles per meter cubed. So anyway, if the number goes beyond 35, we're at a level of concern. Right now it's well below 35, around 10. Okay. So but if it goes beyond 35, we'll be notified. We'll notify the public. That's the threshold for a 24-hour exposure, but we want to be conservative and say, okay, if it's there for an hour, we want people to know. There have been evacuations ordered. Of course, we can't make people leave, so there are some folks who have stayed. The fire, everybody expects will be out overnight, but it's the kind of thing that you don't know. You got to wait until it goes along, and so I see, some shift changes, but some folks who are there just making sure that it's going to continue. Our Office of Emergency Management remains staffed, so we'll have representatives there overnight monitoring the situation as well. From the perspective of any threats that might be coming, the most serious one that I was talking to people about is, what if this heat were to affect other nearby pipelines, because there is above ground infrastructure that's getting hot. And so there was a VP of operations from Chevron that personally assured everybody that heat should not be threatening those pipelines. That's sort of what's going to keep me up at night. The best thing we can do there is trust these engineers and these experts who are saying, they're going to be able to tolerate this heat. The product continues moving along, because if it stays stagnant, it'll get hotter more easily. With the
these pipelines are like 4 feet underground, right? Or do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
But they're, it could cause a same sort of situation, right. and they're all around where we are, especially these parts of town. It's just pipelines, but obviously, as it happened here, if something is impacted above ground, it can cause this major flaring. As far as the fire being out, once it is in theory out, they're going to have to flare it, and so they'll throw some fire at it to see if it reignites, and that way they'll be certain that there's not flammable material coming out, and so we can expect it to reignite sort of on purpose, in which case we'll have to keep watching it. The other thing we're looking for and monitoring, and this is probably the most important thing we're monitoring for in our Harris County Pollution Control Department, is the flammability around are we finding that in the air there is flammable material beyond what is standard. And so right now we're not seeing any of that, but we are moving around. They're literally the folks with the monitors driving around, shifting with the air, and which way the wind is blowing, they're shifting according to that. And if there is any sort of elevated reading in terms of there being flammable material out in the air, we'll be notified immediately. That's when we would put a wireless emergency alert out to ping all the residents. I would prefer it if the residents that were asked to evacuate, if everybody had, but I understand the inconvenience, and our job is to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. So we're certainly being pessimistic in our planning, but this is a very serious situation.
For sure. One of the things that we've been talking about is, looking forward, should there be some type of protective barriers around these valves? I mean, the guy did it, or person, whoever the driver was, had to go through the fence. I mean, there was some type of, surrounding containment around that valve, but I mean, what else can be done?
I
Any
was
thoughts?
thinking about that as
Mhm.
well, and discussing with the folks in there, because there, this kind of thing is all over
Got all
town,
over.
is
Mhm.
all over town, and just how vulnerable it is, how close it is. There's pipelines, under schools all over
Mhm.
town,
Mhm.
all kinds of infrastructure. So it's certainly something we'll look into
Mhm.
and ask questions about. Right now, it's a matter of seeing this go out so we know there's not that heat threat to the other above ground infrastructure, making sure the air monitoring continues to be at safe levels, and then we'll do the postmortem, determine exactly what happened, why, and how we can protect from this in the future.
Okay. And just lastly, have you gotten any updates on who the driver might be or the situation? The FBI has said it wasn't a terroristic event.
No, I don't. We'll have an investigation. Our fire marshal's office is part of that as well, and obviously right now they're caught up. Have been there all day and just working with the fire departments. I will say both cities of LaPorte and Deer Park have been incredible. The mayors, all their staff, everybody collaborating very well. And then afterwards, they'll be focused on the investigation. Our fire marshal's office, along with law enforcement.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, can she do a sound in Spanish?
Oh, yeah. Ok, estamos aquí en este incendio. La verdad es bastante preocupante. Vemos pues, relativamente seguido incendios, explosiones, vaya, por la industria que tenemos aquí en el condado Harris, pero el tamaño, la duración de este evento es preocupante. ¿Por qué? Porque el calor todavía puede afectar la infraestructura de otras, arriba del suelo, infraestructura también donde esté pasando material que pueda incendiarse. Entonces eso es lo que hemos hablado ya con la compañía. Chevron es la principal, que tiene otra infraestructura alrededor del área, y nos han asegurado que la infraestructura encima de la tierra va a aguantar el calor que hay, que no hay preocupación alguna, pero eso es lo que estamos monitoreando. También la calidad del aire, el número mágico es 35, entonces si la calidad del aire, el número pasa de 35, o sea que hay suficientes partículas pequeñas que pueden entrar en los pulmones de las personas, alertaremos al público. Ese es un estándar, el número 35 por más de 24 horas seguidas, pero igual si fuera por una hora queremos que la gente sepa. Y finalmente, bueno, ¿cuándo se va a apagar este incendio? Al ya apagarlo van a tenerle que echar fuego nuevamente para verificar que no hay todavía material que pueda volverse a prender. Entonces tenemos que ser conscientes de eso. Cuando se apague puede reiniciar si es que todavía hay material flamable. Y finalmente, bueno, seguimos monitoreando el aire, la calidad. No solamente es el número de partículas que mencioné, sino también si hay material en el aire que se pueda incendiar. Si fuera ese el caso, también me van a notificaremos al público. Estamos trabajando toda la noche. Aquí están los policías, bomberos, los líderes de la ciudad de Deer Park y LaPorte. Y bueno, en este momento es confiar en ese análisis de los ingenieros y de la industria, que el producto que está pasando debajo de la tierra no va a verse afectado por este incendio. There's around 20 miles of pipeline in between the gauges that they were able to shut down where there is this material. And so right now we're waiting for all of that material to flow and be burned off. The challenge is when the temperature goes down, what they were explaining to me is the material is flowing more slowly.
Okay.
So actually the fact that it's nighttime and it's less hot is not good for us in this situation. So that's why, the predictions as to when it may be out are gonna be fluctuating because of that. But that's what we've got to do is wait out for that, flare the area to make sure it's not going to ignite again, and then actually they put nitrogen through the pipes to sort of clear them out. That's what standard procedure is, to use that to clear them out. And so once that is done, we'll know we're in the clear beyond making sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. And I'll repeat in Spanish, hay 20 millas de producto bajo de la tierra que hay que evacuar. Entonces ya han cerrado pues ambos lados de esta tubería para que puedan atrapar esas 20 millas de producto, y está saliendo ese producto y se está quemando. La cosa es que a medida que baja la temperatura durante la noche, el producto fluye más lentamente. Entonces va a tardar un poco más de tiempo poder sacar ese producto y quemar lo que hay, y ya cuando eso suceda ya acabará este incendio. Luego le echan nitrógeno a esas tuberías para sacar todo lo que hay ahí, y ya acaba el incidente. Entonces ahora es estar muy pendientes a lo largo de la noche, esperar que ya mañana temprano haya terminado de fluir y de quemarse el material, y luego pues estudiar qué fue exactamente lo que sucedió, por qué, y si hay alguna protección adicional que hay que poner en esta infraestructura sobre la tierra para proteger toda esta infraestructura que hay bajo de la tierra, que existe por todo lado de nuestro condado, debajo de escuelas, debajo de supermercados. Es básicamente bueno, la fuente de nuestra economía, pero también es una amenaza con la que vivimos.
Have you been given any sort of indication about how long it took to actually get the valve shut off? There were some neighbors that we talked to who said it took like 4 hours.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have that information.
Okay. Or anything that may have led to a delay in that?
No, I really don't. I know that they were trying to figure out whether the space could be narrowed, whether there was anything they could do so that it wasn't 20 miles worth of product, but there hasn't really been an alternative solution to that. If there is, of course, that'll help the fire go out more quickly. But we have, you know, the smartest people. They're connecting with the very top leaders in these industry companies that are affected, and it's about, you know, really trusting everybody's expertise at this point and keeping the community informed.
And then what, if anything, can Harris County do to hold anyone accountable in this type of situation?
We'll find out afterwards. So the fire marshal will do an investigation. They'll work with law enforcement. We'll determine really what the cause was. As folks know, you know, part of the reason that we have so many incidents is because our regulatory authority is quite curtailed. For example, in a lawsuit, these companies at most will have to pay $1 million, which for these large companies is really not much. And so the best thing we can do is really use these kinds of examples to advocate and hope that there can be changes in the law so we can better hold these companies accountable. Right now, we don't know, right, if it was a flaw from the company, if it was this driver, exactly what happened, but it's something that happens often enough, these kinds of incidents, not perhaps to this extent, but certainly where we know there is an issue with industry, that there need to be higher standards. There's just no way for us to enforce it, but we continue to work very closely with them to try to encourage that responsible behavior. The company has been very forthright and communicative as the first responders are doing all their work. And of course, we'll be asking the question, is there a better way to protect this above ground infrastructure so that something like this doesn't happen again? It's certainly new to me. But you know, there's innumerable things that could happen when you have this kind of material around our communities, which is just the truth of the matter.
Sure.
My last question, was there any indication from Energy Transfer that they're going to be doing anything to help anyone who has the damage to their homes or their vehicles?
I
think
sure
they've
hope
set up a
so.
hotline.
Yeah.
They did, and that's why I'm kind of getting at that.
Yeah.
It's like, are they collecting the reports so they can pay for
Yeah,
it?
I did not speak with them directly about that,
Okay.
so I'm not going to speak for them. I sure hope they do. And you know, we'll think about that afterwards. Right now, you know, really what's got me on edge and everybody, you know, really leaning forward through the night is the fact this continues, the heat continues, the emissions continue, even if right now they're good. And so everybody is on standby, working hard. We'll get through tonight, get this out, and then hopefully move forward to these other questions.
Good.